All right. We always start off by saying great writers require convivial collaboration. Great writing passes through many hands. And this week, we always say a client we're grateful for and a collaborator we're grateful for, but the collaborator cannot be on the call. Why don't we just talk through, uh, just tell us your name and give us a collaborator that you're grateful for that's not on this call. Alex? Oh, wait, I should start. So today I'll say, I'm not going to say a client I'm grateful for. I'll say a collaborator I'm really grateful for is my boss, Kirk. He does this thing where he writes about 5 words and it totally reframes everything that I've just written and I have to start again. And it is some of the best editing that I ever get. So that's me. Alex, name, location, title, and collaborator you're grateful for today.
I'm Alex. I'm in San Antonio, Texas. I'm an art director here at ArtSpeak, and I'm really grateful for one of our strategists, Jeremy Holstrom. We work together a lot on a lot of branding projects, and he's just so passionate about helping people, helping churches get their mission out. And anytime he gets going on strategy, you can just tell he's so excited, and he's so good at empathizing with our clients.
Yeah, agreed. He's great. Libby Luttrell.
Hi, Libby Luttrell. I'm in St. Louis. I am a brand strategist and account champion here at ArtSpeak, and a collaborator I'm grateful for is Kelsey. She is one of our project managers, and she is just highly gifted and amazing with just outlining all the tasks and understanding how to build them out in our project management system. And she follows around my squirrel brain and idea brain and puts them into a cohesive plan. We were just on a call together, and I was just amazed at how she could outline all the things that came out of that call. So
Nice. Melissa Bishop.
Yes, sir. Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm in St. Louis, and a collaborator that I am grateful for is Harrison Saldana. So we work together at Missouri Baptist University, and we write together. And he's very flexible. I love the way he holds onto things loosely, and he brings suggestions to the table, and he's just super flexible. He's like, hey, well, what if we do it like this? Or what if we marry it like this? Like, I like what you're doing here, but how can we do it all together? It's never, he's just Gumby.
Yeah, I've never met him. So Melissa's a songwriting professor and a songwriter, but at Webster and Missouri Baptist here in the area. Ryan Weiss.
Hey friends, my name's Ryan. I'm also in St. Louis. I live in Rock Hill, Melissa, so not too far from Webster, pretty near you. And what else was I supposed to say? Oh, I'm a writer on the writing team, help Cory out with brand messaging and some writing for our retainer clients. Collaborator I'm grateful for. I get a technical win on this one. Amy is typically on the call, but since she's not, I get to name her, unless I'm missing her. Doesn't look like it. But
No.
Amy is another fellow writer at ArtSpeak. Grateful for her. I guess the way I would put it is like tasteful tenacity when it comes to her writing. You need someone to like generate quick, good copy. If you give her like a brief and you give her some guidelines, she just like goes better than anyone I know. And she does it without sacrificing quality. She's got like, doesn't she have her doctorate in like poetry or creative writing or something?
Yeah, she's got her PhD in like, I want to say her thesis was in Middle Eastern immigrant poets.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So all that to say, she does it without sacrificing that like beautiful aspect of writing. So rare skill, one I don't have and I'm very envious of. So anytime I get to write on a project with her, she brings such a great aspect to that project, and yeah, grateful for her.
Nice. Megan? Megan
Hi,
sending the smoke down our way from Canada. Sorry, go ahead.
You stole my thunder completely,
Oh,
Cory. I
yeah,
was gonna
sorry.
say, I am Megan. I always say when I meet new people on ArtSpeak calls is that I am the resident Canadian on the team. So I live in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, if that means anything to anyone. And I'm a social media strategist on the team and do some writing as well. And a collaborator that I'm grateful for. I am known to cheat during this, and I'm going to today because this person is usually not on this call. I'm really grateful for Jackson. We've been collaborating a lot lately, and I just learned so much from him all the time, and he has such a way of articulating things. So yeah, just really grateful for him.
Nice. Shannon?
Shannon Zabrowski. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri, and I wear a few hats with ArtSpeak. I do a strategist, client champion, one of the consultant coaches, and then also writing team now. So I'm excited about that. I like collaborating with, there you go, I like collaborating with, well, there's a number of people already, but I'd say Cory is already my fave just because he kind of does what he said Kirk does to him. He just kind of gives me a few lines and suddenly reframes the voice of everything else. And I'm like, okay, that's right there. That's where I needed to go. And I used to kind of pride myself in saying things with as few words as possible in my career as pastoring. And so Cory just does it even better in words and on writing. And so he just really helps me frame it and say it concisely. And so I really like that.
That's a nice thing to say, Shannon, and thanks for choosing me for your cheat. Oh, hey, Emily. Jackson or Allie or Uriah, do you want to go or do you want to beg off? Because you're not on screen. So,
I'm sorry, my video wasn't on. I'll be right
No,
back.
it's okay.
Toddler
it's okay.
time.
I can go.
Okay.
I'm Allie. I am the branding project manager and the writing manager as well. I am from Indianapolis, Indiana, and I am really grateful for Bella, who is another PM on our team. She has taken over for now, our web project manager for a couple weeks, and I could not do it. So I'm really grateful that she is doing it because it has so many nuances to it and it's such a task. So for her to add that on top of everything she does is really amazing.
Yeah, nice. Emily, you wanna play our game?
Yeah, is my mic a little bit better? Okay. What the first thing that jumped to my mind, you said a collaborator, right? That is enjoyable. There's a client of mine who is so fun to work with because he is really good. His name's Mike Edens, and he gives really great creative direction on projects. And so I'll work with him on different creative like scripts or video, kind of like creative elements to start like a conference or like a video or something. And it's just so fun because he's really good at painting a good vision of what he wants. And so it just makes it fun to write and contribute to the projects. So that's what first thing that came to mind when you mentioned that.
Yeah, very cool. Uriah? No, Uriah's doing stuff. Very speaking. All right. So next thing we always do in these meetings is we go through our task list, which we're not going to bore you with. But then after that, we do a reading because this is ever so slightly liturgical. But before I start the reading, Ryan, would you please pull up Ryan Lawn Care and there's one other. You just did M-Star, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could you pull up those messaging blueprints?
Yep.
And
Will
Libby,
do.
would you mind pulling up Lazy Brook or Lifebrook?
Sure.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen again. And I'm glad we got a songwriting prof on the call because we're gonna talk through a song, and this has a lot to do with what we're going to be talking about here when we talk about brand promises. But I'm not going to tell you what the title of the song is, but you probably already know the song if you ever listen to country music. The smile, the charm, the words, the spark, everything you've had it. I guess I had a naive heart, because boy, I let you have it. You said I was your only. I never thought you'd leave me lonely. You're just a lost boy with your head up in the clouds. You're just a lost boy. Never keep your feet on the ground. Always going to fly away just because you know you can. You're never going to learn there's no such place as a Neverland. You don't understand. You'll never grow up. You're never going to be a man. Peter Pan. Deep down, I knew that you were too good to be true, that every piece and part of me wanted to believe in you. But now it's happily ever never. I guess now I know better. You're just a lost boy, etc. Chorus, you're always gonna fly away, never gonna grow up, never gonna be a man, Peter Pan. And then the bridge, you're just a lost boy. Yeah, I know who you are. And you don't know what you lost, boy. Too busy chasing stars. Always gonna fly away just because you know you can, etc. All right. So I'm just gonna say real quick, the title of a song in most styles of music is the song's promise. It says, we're going to deliver every line and also the music that accompanies it. We're going to deliver on the promise of this song. And when the title comes up, it should be both a little bit surprising, but also like, of course, that's what they're going to say there. So I'm curious, as you guys look at this lyric, and you can hate on it, you can do whatever, I don't care. What do you see? What's interesting about it? Is there anything we can learn from it? I'd be, yeah, Ryan, please.
I don't know what the term is because I'm not hyper educated in formal writing, just kind of caught it over the years. But whatever it is, when like Lost Boy, Lost Comma Boy, both of those, like the parallelism there,
Yeah.
I love that. That's the kind of stuff I try to find, like the double meanings of the same words coupled together to communicate different things is brilliant.
Yeah, the at the end, you don't know what
Mhm.
you lost, boy.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
that's cool.
What else do you guys see here?
I love that there's so few words, but so much is painted. That's one of my favorite things that can happen with, especially poetry, when there's such a story told with so few words, and it's done with those little pairings of words, and like the ever never, that was my favorite part.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's happily ever never. Like just it always amazes me. Like this reminds me kind of logo design. Like a logo is really kind of pared down to the bare essentials, but so much can be said from it. And I feel like when I look at writing like this, and it's so simple, I'm always like, nah, that looks way simpler than it was to write. Because it took, convivial collaboration, I'm sure, but also just that continually shaving off the excess to get down to the center and what they're actually trying to say. So really love that.
Three writers on this song.
I like that it started with how the singer feels, and it then poured into why they felt that way. And so it starts with, focusing on me, but then it reveals why that person felt that way, why the vocalist. So I like that progression, that succession of how it got there.
Yeah, my personality type appreciates that too. But like, I like creative writing, but I also like logical writing or like sequential writing.
Linear, very linear.
Has some strategy to like why we started with this and then move to this and then move to this. If you can do all of that, I'm in love with it.
I love the reveal of the linear story. That's same with Ryan. I think, or I don't know if that's what you're saying, but that's what I like.
So, Melissa, I would love to hear like what you like if you were to guess how this song was written, assuming and I think there's a pretty big assumption in this case, assuming that they started with the title, Peter Pan,
Okay.
how do you think they outlined it?
I mean, it's pretty straight ahead in terms of songwriting. Like there's not a lot of big surprises form wise, you know. So the first verse it's the viewpoint of the guy, or well, not the viewpoint of the guy, but it's talking about the guy. It's just, or yeah, the guy. And they're just talking about the state of the relationship, the singer is. But it's not as much about her. Like she saves all that for verse 2. So there's a turn in viewpoint or in sides. Like here I'm painting this side, here I'm painting this side. And the chorus is what's gonna connect it. But I would point to some subtleties that would say they had the hook first, and they talked about images, because the pre-chorus says, you're just a lost boy. Well, you can be lost in a million different ways, but when you think of Peter Pan, what do you think of? You think of him doing this and flying toward that North Star. Straight on to the what is it? Straight on to the star and right on until morning. I can't remember what he says, but I was flying, and Wendy flying, right? And Tinkerbell flying. So he's up in the clouds. That immediately makes me associate Peter Pan. And it's really subtle because it's a phrase that we use, but it's a specific picture. His head's up in the clouds. The way they connect, like verse 1 and verse 1 and verse 2. I guess I had a naive heart. So she talks about a specific piece, because boy, I let you have it. And then she references that again, but every piece and part of me, you know, not just my heart, but all the other parts too. So there's just subtle connectors in there. Can you scroll down just a little bit? And again, like the writer's connecting head up in the clouds, too busy chasing stars. So I would guess that they said, what are the strongest images of Peter Pan? And that's where they landed. And they probably made a list of those words, you know, or talked about that specific moment, so that you just kept painting it and kept coming back to one specific spot. Because when you say lost boy, I tend to think of like the scene on the ship, or the scene in the trees. There's all of the lost boys. But they kept it very singular in how they painted him. Not the leader of the lost boys, you are a lost boy. So I think that they talked about that either as they were writing it or before they wrote it.
And for me, that's the thing about brand messaging, whether or not you come up with the brand promise first, and we'll talk about what that is in a minute. Whether or not you come up with it first, nothing else really, you can't call anything else done until you've found it, and then you've pointed everything toward that North Star, or in this case, the second star to the right.
Yeah. It's straight on till morning.
Straight
there
on
we
till
go.
morning.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else that we want to say about the song before we move on?
I'm just impressed that they put naive in a lyric, and I don't know this song, and I am so curious. I'll have to go listen to it, because I'm like, that seems like a hard word to sing. Maybe not. That was the main thing that stuck out to me, I promise.
Kelsey Ballerini, I mean, she kind of is a low rent Taylor Swift, really. I like her a lot. I'm just kidding.
Oh, just as a side note, go check out, it's a new song. I can't remember who, she's a newer country artist, but she has a collaboration with Kobe Calais, and it's called Mean Girl.
Mean Girl?
Mean Girl. Yeah, go take a look at that one.
Oh, right on. Okay, let's move on. Unless there's somebody absolutely is like, I want to talk about country music for a few more minutes. I'm game. But, okay. All right. So what are we talking about here? There are three words that get thrown around a lot. And I have to say that they probably all kind of mean similar things. And if you Googled them right now, you get a bunch of different answers. But brand promise, value proposition, and tagline are the three things we're going to talk about today. I guess I want to start with value proposition, but actually, no, first I want to talk about the communication triangle. And I wonder if there's an art speaker who wants to give a quick communication triangle rundown.
Star student Ryan would love to do it. Communicate. Do you want me to show a picture, or we'll do the hands? The hands works
Do
too.
the hands because
Okay.
it's creepier.
Yeah, you're right. Communication triangle. It's a framework that we like to use in our writing, but kind of like it works for like almost anything really. It asks the question, okay, if this is who you are, let me do it in reverse here. This is actually the right way. If this is who you are as an organization, a business, a person, an individual, an influencer, something, the identity of who you are, you have to kind of get clarity around mission, vision, values, what you offer. So that's kind of a first part of our messaging process that we write. That's the identity. But you're trying to reach people over here on this side of the triangle. And oftentimes between you two, there's a break. So between you and who you're trying to reach, maybe the break is they don't know you exist yet, right? So part of the challenge to overcome there is you just have to introduce yourself to them. A lot of the times we work with churches a lot at ArtSpeak. A lot of the times the break in relationship between the church and the people they're trying to reach is a bad reputation, whether of that church itself. Maybe it's a longstanding church that has new leadership, but 20 years ago, this person, this family was hurt by this church. Maybe there's some baggage there. Oftentimes I would say, especially people who they haven't reached yet, a church, the break is just the church's reputation in America, specifically as America's moving towards post-spirituality, post-Christendom. We just need to help overcome that reputational barrier. So the question is, okay, if there's a lot of voices, how do we cut through the noise? How do we overcome those gaps and those barriers between us and who we're trying to reach? We go to the top of the triangle, which is what we call the shared win message. And the shared win message is, okay, let's follow this part of the triangle. What do we want for the people we're trying to reach as an organization, as a business, as a person? What's that whole list of things that we want for our audience? And then we say, let's follow our audience up their life journey on this side of the triangle. What are the things they want for themselves? What are the things they're aiming their lives at? And we try to find an overlap between those two circles at the top, that Venn diagram. And wherever what we want for them and what they want for themselves, that's the shared win. Those are the shared win aspects that we want to plant the message in, because that's how we're going to cut through the noise and reach these people. Is we say, oh, you're looking for X, we also want X for you, or you're looking for Y, we also have Y for you. Instead of that, one of the things we say is like the church specifically likes to talk about itself a lot, likes to describe itself a lot, but it doesn't like to, it's not naturally gifted at talking about what the people they're trying to reach are looking for in their life and making the connections there. So we just like to use that communication triangle to kind of frame our journey of identifying the things that you want as an organization or business, trying to identify, best guess, because we don't have all these people in the room that we're trying to reach, trying to identify the things that they want for themselves and start finding those overlaps, those shared wins between the both of us, so that we can anchor our message there and really talk about the value ultimately that we want to provide them, which is what leads to the brand promise, which will lead to the value propositions, and specifically leads to the taglines.
Yeah. And like the other thing that maybe people have rightly or wrongly accused the church of is taking the who we are out of it altogether and just say, give the people what they want. Tell them that you're going to give them programs and stuff for their kids to do, and this group and that group, and then bait and switch. You have to do these things in order. So you have to root both in who you really are and in your audience. Otherwise, it's It feels icky, is what it feels
Yeah.
like.
Manipulative.
And we've all felt that. We've all been manipulated. I mean, I think like multi-level marketing, man, they're great at telling you what you want to hear and not telling you what they are. They wait for a long time to tell you what they are. Okay. So, so out here at the tip, the first thing I want to talk about is value propositions. And value propositions are just, it's one of three things. It is a gain creator, a pain reliever, or a product and a service. I've seen a lot of brand messaging or a lot of church messaging. One of their value propositions, I'll say value propositions because it appears in sort of a value proposition point on their site, is you are loved. I hate that for a few reasons. It's in the passive voice. Like, who loves me? Somebody loves me. You are loved by someone, I promise. I'm not going to commit to who's going to love you, but it's not a promise. It's just an aphorism. And man, I'll tell you, it's really easy to write aphorisms instead of promises. To address a need and say, this is how we need it. And it actually, as the brand, it's like, you know, good luck. So a value proposition is a game creator. We're going to do something to make your life better. A pain reliever. We're going to take away something that's giving you a headache. A product or a service. I mean, it's as simple as this does this, or we offer these things for you. So that's a value proposition. As copywriters, we write these all the time. I mean, Megan is a value proposition machine because she does a ton of social media writing. And so she might identify a pain point or a hope and then say, here's what we're offering here. And so those are value propositions. They really need to be able to say them. I think the low end, I'm sure you can do it in one word. I do have an example where I have one word value propositions. They're usually, I don't know, 3 to 7 words. 10 words is maybe on the long side. If you ask ChatGPT to give you value propositions, that's about how long. So that's that. All right, I'm going to keep talking and then I'm going to open up for discussion. A brand promise is the big value proposition. Like if I only had to choose one thing to say, what is it? And we're going to look at some of those and some brand promises we've made. So a recent favorite one of mine is let yourself whoa. I think that's so funny. It's so silly. It's I think it's Universal Studios. Let yourself whoa, man. My other favorite one that I say all the time. Well, there are two because they show differences in brand voice. And our friend Jana, who just had her baby and isn't here, makes fun of me. But Bic, the best a man can get. That's their brand promise. The best a man can get. Dollar Shave Club. Shave time, shave money. So stupid, but it not only a brand promise is not just telling you what our main value proposition is, but it's going to tell you how we're going to deliver on that brand promise. Is it going to be fun? Is it going to be serious? Is it going to be sciencey? Is it going to be like motivating? So your voice influences your brand promise quite a bit. And then a tagline can be a brand promise. Shave time, shave money is a tagline. That said, it doesn't have to be. It's just any phrase that is consistently associated with your brand. Just do it is not a promise. I mean, it reveals brand voice. It reveals sort of the how they do things and how they think. But it is a tagline. It is not a brand promise. I think mostly for us at ArtSpeak, when we write taglines, we would rather write a brand promise. We always write a brand promise, but we try to make it a tagline as well. Trying to make it short, punchy enough that it can work as both. The way that most of our churches use it, it's different for productized and service-based clients. But the way our churches use it is almost always the hero copy on their website. Hillsong for years used the brand promise, welcome home. Any church,
And then so did everyone else.
any church that uses that now should be ashamed of themselves.
Shots fired.
Only because, man, it's just been done to death. Well, and there are probably other reasons too that we're not going to talk about. Okay. Value proposition, brand promise, tagline, questions. Yeah, I'm ready to fight, Megan. Comments or questions? Okay, then let's start looking at some. I would really love to start with Ryan Lawn and Tree. Ryan Lawn and Tree is easier because it's a service and you can actually figure out what the service is. So maybe Ryan, would you mind sharing your screen, go through value propositions and your brand promise and your tagline?
Yeah, absolutely.
And just maybe give us a little context, like what was the problem that we needed to solve for these guys? And this is Libby's client. So Libby, you can jump in if you hear something that you want to point out.
Yeah. Quick context for why they reached out to us. They're a Kansas City-based company, and they were having no problem growing kind of in that area of their services. When they got to St. Louis, they were hitting some challenges, some barriers to growing, and they were curious if the messaging that they were using and the marketing that they were using in Kansas City and other places around the country just wasn't working in St. Louis. So they came to us to say, hey, can you help us with some St. Louis specific campaigns? So this example is also a little different because in this, I've written a brand promise, tagline, and value propositions for 3 different potential marketing campaigns that they could run in the area. So it's a little bit more than we usually do, but that was the context. And if I remember correctly, I'm curious if it's still on their website. Their hero copy, I think, was the pros you know and the big red trucks. Let's see if it's still there. The pros you know and the clean red truck. There you go. And this, to me, in my evaluation at the beginning, this felt more like a tagline than a brand promise. There's a little bit of, I think, assumptive value in here. Pros, clean. I thought we could help them with a much clearer audience-based desire, hope, fear kind of pain gainer, or gain creator, pain reliever brand promise. So, so for their first campaign, let's see, sorry to scroll so far. Their first campaign that we just kind of called Get Yourself a Lawn Pro, the campaign promise for this that I wanted was life's busy enough, get yourself a lawn pro. And we're not talking about core stories on this call per se, but the way I structured this was, here's where we're going to start. Here's the main campaign's promise, which is kind of serving as the brand promise for this particular campaign. We tell a story about why life is busy and why you don't have time and you just need to outsource your lawn stuff to professionals, right? That's kind of the main idea. And in the middle of the core story is where I kind of include the brand promise. Listen, life's busy enough and weekends are for more than yard work. It's time to get yourself a lawn pro. So that was kind of the main value we wanted to position Ryan Lawn for their audience. By the end, and this was just me. I wanted to do a little bit different, cheeky kind of like tagline that was related to the campaign promise, but it's just a little bit different. And so now it's Ryan, Lawn and Tree. Now you've got a lawn pro. It kind of like is a little bit of a sequential, assumptive close almost idea. So in this particular campaign, the promise and the tagline are similar, yet slightly different. And then specifically we also came up with a bunch of different value propositions for them. And
hold on, I want to say a couple things real quick.
yeah, please.
So I love this first value proposition, but get yourself a lawn pro is like Peter Pan in that it suggests a lot, and it can drop down several different layers. So I think Amy wrote for Bridgeway Church, and we helped them name Bridgeway Church is Connections for Life. It seems really simple, but what they needed to do in their community was help connect. And this is a southern town, a university town, lots of people groups, all disconnected. Connections for Life is partly that everybody told us about that church. They make friends for life there. It's bridging, it's Connections for Life. And you can see it kind of drops down a couple levels right away. Life's busy enough, get yourself a lawn pro has given Ryan all these different angles to attack it with value propositions. So I'm going to stop talking now, but go on, because it's really
and to
cool.
your point, Cory, the final version of this too, of the campaign promise came at the very end after all of it was done. So I knew, because I like started with a version of it that was like, okay, this is going to let me spin it off. So then I spun it off into different value propositions. But then by the end, I kind of, to your point, I wanted to make sure that the bow that we tied with the campaign promise really encapsulated everything that I had generated. So that's kind of another part of the process that happens often. And then for value propositions, to Cory's point, we try to make them short. I also, for this client, wanted to give them, they were planning on maybe doing some print marketing. And so for like websites and for social media graphics, things, signs, things of that nature, specifically for churches, that's where those 3 to 7 to 10-ish word value propositions are good. When you need to say something a little bit more, sometimes we also provide a deeper description or like a subheader or a sub description of the value proposition. That's what these are. This would really be like the pure value proposition example. And then this is just kind of expanding, telling a little bit more story. And then I kind of set this up like a print ad so they could kind of see it. Like if they just did something in like a magazine or a newspaper, like this would be all they'd have to submit. And so ending with the tag, like ending each value proposition with the tagline that we came up to for the whole campaign, and then their, name and website. So that's why it's kind of structured that way. But yeah, I think that these value propositions, they're anchored in what their audience is hoping to feel after, and the value that's going to be added to them after they interact with Ryan Lawn. So we typically, and correct me if I'm wrong, Cory, we typically try to lead with a verb. This one's not. This one doesn't lead with a verb, but like work with experts who remember your name. St. Luce's Solutioneers for all things green, not a verb. Get personalized plans for any lawn, verb. Top of the line treatments. I'm actually now shooting myself in the foot. A lot of times we lead with verbs. Sometimes we don't, right?
A lot of times, not always.
Yeah, not always. But that's how, one of the things I learned about value propositions, if it doesn't lead with a verb, you need to ask if it's actually giving someone value. That's kind of how I evaluate it. And sometimes the better, more refined way to write a proposition is to not necessarily force it to be verby on the front, and you do rewrite it, but that's kind of a check for me.
Yeah. So would you just read through the headlines really quickly, and then I want to move on to Lifebrook.
Great. So making weekends better since 1987 is the first one. Work with experts who remember your name. That was a pain point that they identified for the industry, is that the cheaper kind of budget lawn providers often are impersonal, quick, and don't care about you as the person. Their differentiator is we're experts that will remember your name. So a little bit of context there. St. Louis's Solutioneers for all things green. And I kind of underlined this so they can swap that out with Kansas City, or they're in Nebraska too. You kind of put any city there that you want. Get personalized plans for any lawn and tree problem. It's one of the longer ones. Top of the line treatments for breathtaking results. Put your lawn on autopilot. A how's the yard doing text never felt so good. It's a fun one. And they're actually trying to reach also a segment of women who are the decision makers for the home. And so they wanted a tone that was a little bit lighter, fun, a little more jovial than just like the manly professional stuff. So that was a fun one to do. Yeah, that's one campaign.
Could you go up one real quick?
Yes.
So top of the line treatments for breathtaking results. Ryan, you're still in the brand voice. The pros, in the clean red truck.
Yeah.
It's those really hard consonants. It's really spit them out. It sounds great. Top of the line treatments for breathtaking results. But it's an actual value proposition rather than
just a tagline thing.
And generally, another thing that they were going for, and in the next several of these that we do, we're going to go back and say, where do you root? How do you identify what the audience actually wants from you? And then how do you come up with this stuff? But
it's great
to think here, what Ryan Lawn wanted to do is position itself as the premium service. This isn't a junk service. So anyway, any questions for Ryan after looking at all this? All right, Libby, you go through Lifebrook. Would you mind, you and I worked on this one together. Would you mind just sort of talking about the client problem, a little bit about their personality, and then talk through this?
Yeah. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay. Here we go. So Lifebrook Church, Alex was actually the art director on this one as well. And they are located in the Houston Heights area. I'm going down to our value propositions, but I was trying to find, okay, so their first meeting, they were Community Baptist Church planted out of another Baptist church in 1959. And so they had recently, I want to say, it was 2018, I believe, they hired Zach Brackett as their new senior pastor. And he really did, I'm trying to get to the value propositions. Let me focus here. Okay. And so he really did have a heart. He's a younger guy, I think probably mid-30s, right, Cory? And the church, I was very impressed with their elder-led committees and everything. And they said, we want to make sure we keep going as a church. We don't want to die as a congregation. So they were very intentional to search for a new pastor that was going to infuse life, infuse young families into their community, and wanted to hear what he thought about it. And so they brought him in, and then I think it was like 6 months in, they had a fire in their main auditorium, and they had that displaced them, and they met in this little community hall. And then COVID happened. So all of this happened in his first year of being a senior pastor of a church. He had been on pastoral teams before, but this is like, here he is helping this little Baptist church rejuvenate in a neighborhood that's also, it's the Houston Heights neighborhood that's becoming an up and coming neighborhood in the Houston area. It had gone down, but actually it's becoming a place where a lot of young families are moving. The house prices are going crazy. People are moving in, buying grandma's little house, and the values are going through the roof. And so they wanted to really become relevant and stay relevant for the neighborhood. And that's something that Pastor Zach recognizes. Well,
Did we talk about what the name? Did we tell what the name of the church was?
So their name was Lazy Brook Baptist Church, because there was a neighborhood not far away named Lazy Brook, like a little subdivision. And I'll admit, but the more I got to know them, it was charming to me. And I was like, oh, I love Lazy Brook. Let's just call you guys Lazy Brook, because they are charming, sweet people. I got to do an on-site with them there. And it's a small group, but they are really friendly. Something that really struck me is I went to the Sunday service and a few people knew we were there and why we were there, but this woman did not know me. And I was just walking around before service and I passed by a lady. She said, "Hi, my name's Mandy. What's yours?" And I said, "Oh, I'm Libby." And she said, "Well, it's really nice to meet you. Is this your first time?" Or I forget exactly how she said it. And I said, "Oh yeah, I'm just checking things out." And she said, "Do you have somewhere to sit? Would you like to sit with me?" And I just thought, man, I've been at church a long time and I need to do better at that. Like she just immediately welcomed me, immediately had me sit by them. And that was the spirit and the heart of these people that we met.
So if you think triangle here, we've got this like folksy, happy, easygoing church in the middle of the Houston Heights district, up and coming people. And could you share what we decided the main hope of their audience was? And this, I think this came from Pastor Zach, or it might have come from you, Libby. I can't remember.
Well, all along, whenever I would speak with Pastor Zach on even sales calls, all the way through our discovery, and then he had this sense of like, we're pursuing something bigger. We're going for life. I want people to reach for this next thing. There was a momentum feeling and all of that in his heartbeat. And then when I went there, his message actually spoken to it too. And the more like interviews and things that we learned, this was the heart of this little church who even had the guts to say, we know we need to change what we're doing, and they have reconstructed a lot of things. And actually, this is their first weekend back into their new sanctuary coming up this Sunday. So we identified that the people in that area, their root hope is meaningful pursuit. Their root fear is the hamster wheel of life, lots of energy going nowhere, because this neighborhood is filling up with families, 2 incomes. It's kind of that rat race. And there's all these highways that connect everything in Houston. And it feels like, what do? I I show up to work, I come back home, I do this thing, I just do this rhythm. So we said, just based on it was like getting out of that and pursue life-giving things, not just this day-to-day churn. So that was our brand promise.
Yeah, you can see pursue life, hopefully. I don't know how well we did. I think we did well. But pursue life drops down. Like, pursue life. There's an idea of pursuit. Oh, this is great. Yeah.
Their website that we wrote. So this is where we did the headline, "Don't just survive, pursue life." So that's how some context of where we put it.
Yeah. And could you choose just a couple of your favorite value propositions on this one?
Yeah. Well, I'll choose then. I'll show where we put it, because my favorite value proposition is, I think it's under Get Connected. Nope. Wait. Oh, it's under About. Okay. This is my favorite one. A place for every face in Houston's greater area, Houston Greater Heights community. It's called Houston Heights. And so a place for every face with this emoji. So we wrote, because they all have a sense of humor, they're clever. And so that was one of the things, audience hope, to be accepted by those around me, a fear, to be rejected by those around me, a place for every face, even yours. It's just like a little wink and a nod. It's kind of out of the ordinary of what you would expect from a church. I liked this one too. Awkward hugs welcome here. Because it's just like, it's kind of like speaking into like, yeah, we do these things, but it's also like, just come on, guys. We're fun, we're funny, and we're casual. And I love to see how it translated even into the personality of their website. I know we wrote this website for them, but I just love, because it's like, they're going to get that tone when they go there. They're going to feel that when they experience the church.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. I want to move on to taglines for a few minutes. But any questions for Libby about Lifebrook or how we came up with, how we found those value propositions of that brand promise? Yeah.
So I was just listening to you talk about it. And several times you said they were going after young families. Did you consider anything beyond young families when you were?
Yes.
I particularly hate that phrase.
Yeah,
So
well, because I
we,
mean, that eliminates
A
65.
lot of audiences, yes.
so
A lot of people.
I will say that we almost always try to get them away from the most basic idea of their audience. And we will talk audience in a couple months, but the most basic idea of an audience is usually, oh, I want this kind of person. I want them to look like this. And if you think back, I mean, and Saddleback did this really successfully. They invented Saddleback Sam, which is this dude who looks a certain way, who owns certain things. But really, what brings the people of Lifebrook together is they're people who want meaningful pursuit. They don't want to do things just to do it. And they walk by Lazy Brook Baptist Church and they say, no, thank you. But what, and hopefully this gave Alex a lot to go for. The idea of pursue life is a promise now that is fulfilled by the colors Alex chose. He chose that. I wish we could have time for Alex to talk about it, but he chose an orange color that really felt, bright and warm and like kind of a let's go feeling that sort of balanced that blue sort of comfortable, welcoming feeling. And so we have to say, hey, you think this about us. We're Lazy Brook Baptist Church. We don't want the same things. So what we have to do is say, how do we change that narrative? What are the 2 words we're going to say we are not doing that anymore? This is the direction we're headed as a church that you're also interested in. So it's not a mission statement. My church's mission statement is we want passionate followers of Jesus or something. Like, people who aren't Christians don't care about that. But pursue life, that's something that we can both agree on. We want meaningful pursuit, and we want meaningful pursuit of something good. I will say we did messaging. It hasn't come out yet for Harvest Church, Greg Laurie's church, and we chose find freedom, or find Jesus, find freedom, and it points to what people are interested in Southern California. Freedom sounds pretty great, but also find Jesus. We're not going to not talk about Jesus. We're not going to try to say, no, freedom, man. You're just going to get freedom if you come here. Find Jesus, find freedom. Then you can get it in the middle. All right, I want to talk about taglines. I'm sorry, I'm rushing. And I want to give you guys all the link to this doc. And if you're an art speaker, you have access to it in the copywriter folder. But I'm going to put it in our chat here. So there are all kinds of different taglines, and these different kinds of taglines can also, they can become brand promises in a lot of cases, though not all. And I just want to do a quick walk through them and how I use this chart. I'll start by writing the main hope, fear, and challenge that I want to address. So basically, what's the pain? What's the gain? And because we work a lot in ministries, there's usually not like a product or service. Like, nobody wants a church service except for people who are already convinced. So you've got this hope, this fear. You're like, this is what I'm going to aim at. And if you want to create a tagline, start imperative. Like, I want you to do this. Just do it. Obey your thirst. Think different. These are kind of aphorisms. Broadcast yourself. That's YouTube. That is a true brand promise. Lead well. I think that's John Maxwell. Experience the intensity. That sounds like Nerf to me. I love that. And this is one of my favorites. 2 words for Chevy EV, right? So competing with Tesla that nobody can afford. Everybody in. That's pretty good. 2 words, brand promise. All right. Descriptive. This is just saying what it is. Expect more, pay less. That's a good brand promise too. Shave time, shave money. Come on, guys. Imagination at work. This is more saying who we are. I think that the pros you know in the clean red truck goes here as well. It's descriptive of who we are. Imagination at work, finger licking good. That's also a brand promise. That was easy. That's easy button. You're in good.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're in good hands. That's a promise. I love ESPN football, the greatest story ever played. I think Amy found this one. A general contractor in Kansas City, stories from the ground up. Cool play on words there. Superlative, just say that you are the best. This does not work for churches, but it works for other things. King of beers. I think now you got yourself a lawn pro that's here. Ultimate driving machine. Happiest place on earth. That's Disney. Nobody cries at Disneyland, for sure. The best a man can get. It's Nerf or nothing. I love Nerf's messaging. I think it's hilarious. We're almost out of time here. These question ones are really fun. Or sorry, these aren't. These are sort of like just make people think. Invite them into a world. And so what I do with this is I say, okay, I want to address this hope, fear, and challenge. I'm going to start with 10 words and work my way down as few as I can. And hopefully somewhere in this 3 to 5 word range or 3 to 7 word range, I'll find something good. I don't know about the rest of you, and I ideate 100 taglines, brand promises before I settle. This is probably distilling everything about a brand into these few words is really, really hard. And then everything has to point back to it. So, okay, we have to stop here. But I would love to continue the conversation. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions or want to talk about this. Because just ask anybody I know. I love talking about this stuff and they want me to stop. All right. Libby, would you please read our team prayer?
But I don't have it open.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
lost it.
I'm sorry, I can read it. So Libby wrote this for us. May our words bring people closer to the kingdom. May our minds be filled with beautiful words. May our tongues, keyboards, pens, and pencils flow with words that draw people to God. Amen.